Oh, you're here. Good. I was hoping for company. You see, I've got stories, dark ones, chilling ones, the kind that keep you up at night. Mythical creatures, curses, horrors you can't escape. Shall we begin? Don't worry, I won't bite. Much.
This happened in the summer of 1846, in a small town on the outskirts of Venice called Casanova. It was unusually quiet. Near the edge of town stood a modest convent, looked after by 6 or 7 elderly nuns, who also tended to a small cemetery just behind the chapel. One morning, just after a night of rain, Sister Marta went out for her usual round. As she walked past the 3rd row of graves, something fell off. The soil on one of the newer graves had been disturbed. It was a fresh burial. Only 3 days earlier, a young woman had been laid to rest there. The grass had been carefully peeled back, and the earth was loose and damp, but the ground around the grave was strangely clean. No footprints, no signs of digging. The coffin had a neat split at the edge, as if pried open from inside. The kit was sharp, almost surgical. Sister Marta's stomach turned cold. She immediately notified the priest and the local police. That evening, the cemetery was sealed off and investigated. Police found nothing suspicious nearby. No tracks, no tools, no signs of a break-in. But when they opened the coffin, it was completely empty. The girl buried there was named Irene, a local seamstress who had died of illness just before her 19th birthday. Her funeral had been quiet, uneventful. She'd gone peacefully, and now she was gone again, without a trace. 2 weeks later, a second grave was found empty, then a third. Within less than 2 months, 7 young women had vanished from their coffins. All had died of common causes: fevers, sickness. One had drowned. All had been buried recently. All were gone within days. Fear began to spread. Whispers filled the streets. Some claimed vampires were rising. Others muttered about alchemists collecting materials again. People living near the convent stopped going out after dark. Children were kept inside. Dogs howled through the night for no reason. Police placed guards at the cemetery, but it didn't help. Then, during the 8th incident, something changed. This time, the grave was only 3 days old when officers decided to open it early. The moment the lid was lifted, everyone present inhaled sharply. The body hadn't been taken, but her skin had. Her entire skin had been cleanly removed, folded precisely, and placed neatly on top of her chest, like a delicate sheet prepared for packing. The body underneath was intact, eyes closed, peaceful. There was no blood, no damage. She looked like a wax figure someone had gently undressed. And that thin layer of skin, someone had planned to take it, but hadn't made it in time. No one dared to call it a simple grave robbery after that. The case quickly made headlines across Venice. The police widened their investigation, turning their attention to medical schools, hospitals, art academies, any institution that might have access to corpses. A lead came from an art student who came into the station visibly shaken. He kept rubbing his fingers as he spoke. He said there had been a private anatomy session at school that month, not held at the campus, but in a freelance instructor's private studio. The instructor, he said, was named Silvio R., around 35 years old, polite, quiet, meticulous. He taught perspective and anatomy well, and often sat in on dissection lectures at the city hospital. One day, he had invited a few students to his home, calling it a special session on artistic anatomy. The student described the scene. Heavy curtains blocked all light. The studio smelled of formaldehyde and dried herbs, thick, sickly, nauseating. In the corner stood a large glass tank. Inside, a young woman's body floated, hands folded on her chest, eyes closed. She didn't look dead, he said. She looked still, like a saint made of wax. Silvio brought out a canvas, thin as tissue, and dipped a fine brush into a dark red liquid. With steady strokes, he began tracing the lines of muscle beneath the skin. The student noticed a notebook open on the desk. Silvio was recording things. Visual distortion of muscle tension. Post-mortem skin elasticity. Tonal decay of flesh. No scalpel, no cuts. Just observation. But I knew, the student said. That canvas, it wasn't paper. It wasn't cloth. I think it was skin. Police later raided Silvio's home. What they found blurred the line between morgue and gallery. Bookshelves crammed with medical texts and Latin poetry. Sketches made with remarkable precision. Drawn not on paper, but on sheets of preserved skin. Bone specimens arranged like ornaments. And in a locked glass case, 2 fully preserved female corpses. One lay in a sleeping pose. The other knelt, hands clasped as if praying. Even their eyelashes were intact. On the glass was taped a small note, handwritten. I did not harm them. I only wanted to capture them. Before their silence became complete, news of Silvio's arrest spread quickly through Venice. He was taken from his home without resistance, wearing a clean gray coat, his hair neatly combed. He walked slowly, calmly, glancing up at the sky. The wind tugged at his collar. Some said he smiled. A policeman asked, "Do you know why you're being arrested?" He nodded. "You found the sketchbook, didn't you?" In custody, Silvio never pleaded innocence. He showed no signs of panic or anger. He only made one repeated request. Please don't leave the specimens in direct sunlight. It'll ruin the preservation. The trial began within a month. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, clergy, art professors, furious citizens. The prosecution charged him with grave robbery, desecration, and illegal possession of human remains. But there was one problem. No one could prove he had ever killed anyone. All the missing bodies had been legally buried. Families confirmed that death and burial had been uneventful. Forensic reports found no signs of trauma or foul play. Every woman had died of natural causes before Silvio ever touched their remains. In the eyes of the law, he had taken nothing but silence. Still, to the public, he was a monster. Silvio gave a single statement in his defense. I did not steal lives. I borrowed death. They were already gone. I only preserved a part of them. Skin is more honest than a face. Muscles never lie like a smile. You remember their names. I recorded their absence. That's equal. The judge cut him off. So, are you justifying your crimes or composing an obituary for your art? Silvio said nothing more. The court sentenced him to 12 years in prison under the charges of desecration and violation of public health law. When the verdict was read, Silvio adjusted his collar, then looked around the courtroom. People avoided his eyes. He said softly, "You're all watching my hands, but I draw with my eyes." No one understood what he meant. That night, the officer who escorted him to prison wrote in his report, "No resistance, no emotion." It felt like he was being led to a very late exhibition. The 2 preserved corpses found in Silvio's studio were quietly cremated under police order. No names were recorded. No graves were made. Some said it was to erase the evidence. Others whispered it was to finally let the dead leave the canvas. Silvio spent his first year in prison in near total silence. Guards said he was a model inmate. He never fought, never spoke out of turn, never made demands. Every morning, he spent an hour drawing alone in his cell. He cut old pages from donated books and used them as sketch paper. In the afternoons, he read, mostly Latin texts, medical journals, and Renaissance art books. At night, he would sit on the edge of his bed and stare through the slit in the wall. Some guards claimed they'd heard him muttering, not prayers, more like poetry. One night, a cleaner overheard him whisper, "If their bodies rot in the dirt, then let me sketch their outlines." So, time remembers their shape. He was kept in cell block 7, close to the prison library. The hallway had 3 locked gates. One night, no alarms were triggered. No guards reported any issues. But in the morning, when the cell was opened, Silvio was gone. His sheets were folded perfectly. His sketchbook lay on the table, open to its final page. A single figure, walking through an open door, stepping on a bed of scattered flowers. On the bed, they found a note, worn and folded many times. It read, "I was never trying to escape. I was finishing my piece. You see a corpse. I see the outline of silence. They were forgotten. Now they're remembered. That's enough. I'm leaving. Don't look for me." SR. The prison locks were intact. There were no broken windows, no signs of tampering. Surveillance was minimal in that part of the prison. The only clue came from an elderly janitor who recalled a faint smell, formaldehyde and lavender, drifting from the library hallway just before dawn. Silvio was never found. No witnesses, no tracks, no body. Some believe he died, buried by someone who helped him. Others claim he's still alive, hidden in the basement of some forgotten museum, still drawing, still watching. Decades later, during renovations at a library 30 kilometers from Casanova, workers discovered a book tucked behind the shelves. It had no cover, just page after page of skin-like sketches, over 70 in total. Every page was filled with incredibly detailed renderings of human dermis, folds, pores, tension lines. The final page showed only an eye, drawn so deeply it seemed to stare back through the paper. Beneath it, a single line was written, "This isn't fear. This is what it looks like when someone is finally seen." The book was quietly sealed in the library's basement archive. Today, the old cemetery in Casanova is overgrown. The stones have faded, but there's one slab that remains unusually clean. No name, no dates, just one inscription. "Stillness is where beauty begins. Death is only the process."